Those imposing twin towers standing there. Our Jeff Rawson is in Lower Manhattan live on Chambers Street.
And the Nextels and the cell phones are down right now, so we're having to use this to speak with you. We are at the corner of Chambers and Church right now, and I want to give you a live picture of exactly what's happening as you look down. Somebody's actually coming down the street right now in a stretcher. Many people have been injured here, although the FBI and New York City Police cannot tell us exactly what the numbers are at this point. Once again, we are at the corner of Chambers and Church, and I want to show you something else. We have seen building particles flying around. If you come down to the street level, the entire street in all areas, it seems wherever we go is covered in this. We are covered in it as well. Right now, we see people walking around with these masks on, OEM, Office of Emergency Management from New York City, giving these out to people, saying if this building comes down again, and we've had a couple of them so far. We had the first couple of impacts, and you can see in a live picture, the smoke is still coming out. Pieces of this building continue to fall every couple of minutes. You hear what sounds like a rumbling. I guess the best way to explain it to you would be if there were a subway coming under you. That's how it feels. When you're walking along the street and you kind of feel a subway rumbling under you, you feel that, and then all of a sudden, just a wall of particles come at you, and it is pitch black. We have actually had to take ourselves into buildings. OEM has had to knock out windows to let people into buildings that are stuck here on the street. They have evacuated the entire area. As to give you another live picture, down Chambers, you can see the fire department is lined up. Emergency personnel, this is affecting them as well. They're walking around with masks, walking around with pitchers of water at this point, throwing it on themselves because I'm not sure if you can see it, very fine little pieces of particles coming by the screen. You have to wear these masks. And I just want to stay with these live pictures as you see emergency crews trying to mobilize. Hi, sir, were you here for this?
Yes, sir.
What was this like for you?
It was terrifying. The ground was shaking, right? I seen the second plane go into the building. It was like a direct hit sensor.
Were you in the World Trade or were you in the area?
I was in the area. I was working, right? I seen the second one go in, right? It was like it went straight directly into the centerpiece. And it just came down. It was like a ball of fire, and the ground was shaking.
I see you have water here. What are you exactly using that for?
I'm using it to drink and to give to other people.
Many people are hurt. Thank you so much. We've actually had a couple of people. We're having a hard time turning around our tape right now because our truck is full of dust. That's exactly how much dust we're talking about. Our deck is not working. However, I can tell you, we had a woman sitting in our live truck earlier who was literally covered in blood from her toes to her head. She was sitting in our truck filled with dust. She says she was actually on the 82nd. In fact, we just heard another explosion. We just heard another explosion a moment ago. So we're going to stay here as long as we can, but as soon as it becomes dangerous, of course, we will move. Let me tell you a little more about this woman. She was sitting in our truck covered in blood, said she was on the 82nd floor. As soon as they heard that first plane come in, they started running down. It was clear until the 70th floor, but then the problem was a jam inside the stairwell. They ran down below the promenade where all the shopping centers and all the shopping stores are, and then they were able to run. Still, police having a hard time evacuating the whole area. You can see there are many people around, but the streets are jammed now with emergency vehicles. I can't hear you that well right now. I'm going to try to take this here and send it back to you. We don't have a link with you, but we will come back in a couple of minutes and exactly let you know the latest. But again, no word right now on injuries or fatalities at the scene. But the FBI now reporting to Channel 7 Eyewitness News that National Guard has jets in the air. This is a no-fly zone at this point. So if they see any jets that are unidentified, those jets are armed from the National Guard. That is what the FBI is telling us right now.
Okay, Jeff, thank you. It looks, and Jeff, you just heard Jeff report that there was sounds of another explosion. That looks like new smoke, not dust, rising from it.
That is definitely, certainly a deeper color smoke. In fact, you can see the differentiation between what appears to be a dust cloud and this fresh smoke. We have not confirmed exactly what that might have been, but again, our Jeff Rawson live at Chambers Street is telling us that as he was on the air, he heard another explosion. As soon as we get some information, some clarity on what that is or might have been, we'll let you know.
You also heard Jeff talk to an eyewitness who was was it the 86th floor?
82nd
floor. Earlier, Steve Bartelstein had talked to a man who had talked about this log jam in the evacuation process. This is Times Square. You know, the remarkable thing is New Yorkers have anyway from the shots we've seen, seem to have stayed incredibly calm, throughout this. There is, in fact, nothing we can really do about this right now except gather information and keep our wits about us, and New Yorkers seem to be doing that.
In fact, I was on the street as I walked in, rushed in this morning, just from a few blocks away, and it was one of the, something that was interesting to me. I've only lived here about 4 years. There were people on every street corner. There are televisions, as you know, in every store, every bodega, business along the street, gathered in clumps. People are in our front lobby. This is everyone around the city. They are absolutely mesmerized. This, a sense of disbelief, really, that this is going on the other end of Manhattan. But again, it's sort of an eerie calm.
Bill Ritter, along with Sandra Bookman, will bring you extended coverage from Eyewitness News of this horrible tragedy. We're going to bring Jim Dolan in a minute, but first we want to go to David Usher. As you see a live picture of the Washington Bridge shut down. David has been following all the closings that have occurred this morning. David, bring us the latest as we look at a live picture of the remnants of the World Trade Center.
Well, Bill, here's the underlying difficulty, as Anthony Johnson and Jeff tried to explain. It's people trying to get out of that area, but transportation has effectively ground to a halt out of a safety measure. And so all New York City subways continue to remain shut down, and that, according to the New York City Transit spokesman Bob Slovak, is for preventative reason. We know that the New Jersey Transit has suspended all train service into New York and Hoboken in the wake of what has happened here. All of the river crossings, of course, as we mentioned, are shut down. Buses not running. A few are running. And Sandra explained her experience in walking in. Diana Williams, our anchor, just coming in, describing the situation from as far north into the city, coming from Westchester and down into the city. The same type of scene with people not really moving on the street corners, trying to get around, but effectively nothing moving, even though the activity focused in the lower end of Manhattan. As Dave Evans has reported to you, the New York City primary election was called off today. The Board of Elections says the judge charged with overseeing the election called it off because of the massive confusion right now in New York City, and there's no word on when that election will take place. We are, as you heard earlier, trying to get an assessment of situations at the hospital. We know triage was set up at several schools near the scene, and we know that Bellevue, Beekman, other hospitals, of course, receiving the injured. We're trying to ascertain that. We're also getting word that some injured taken by boat across the Hudson into Jersey City. So we're also following that for you as well. Mayor Giuliani is scheduled to have a news conference. I shouldn't say scheduled because we don't know what time. We believe, and we're trying to check reports on a command center being set up in One Police Plaza, but it is unclear right now. But we are trying to track that down. Dave Evans on that as well. Schools, again, those high schools near the scene, leadership and public service, economics and science, Murray Bertram on Pearl Street and Trinity Street, they were shut down, evacuated. We're told that other students being kept into the schools and parents need to pick them up. So information continuing to come in, and we're continuing to follow it for you, and we'll bring it to you as soon as we get it. Back to you, Bill and Sandra.
All right, Dave, we want to reiterate that we do not have any number, any official tally of casualties or fatalities. We assume there are some. Mayor Giuliani, as you heard David report, is scheduled to have a news conference at some point. He does say, according to The Wire, that, quote, I have a sense there is a horrendous number of lives lost. I don't know yet. Right now we have to focus on saving as many lives as possible. That we have ascertained, we're assuming from the eyewitness reports we've had, both Steve Bartlestein's interviews and the interviews that our reporters have done in the field, that the evacuation, at least the 82nd floor, seemed to be going fairly well before the second explosion. So we are assuming that a lot of people have been have evacuated and escaped safely. We are getting word that the Midtown Tunnel, Sandra, what did you hear? The Midtown Tunnel has been...
Midtown Tunnel has been reopened, going outbound.
Outbound only, not inbound.
Okay. Bill, we heard just a moment ago, you read what Rudy Giuliani, Mayor Giuliani, had to say about this. Governor Pataki has also made a statement to the Associated Press. He says today's horrific incident at the World Trade Center, which appears to be part of a coordinated terrorist attack, as we've been telling you all day, he says is a tragedy of unspeakable proportions and a crime against all Americans and all decent people around the world. He says, I have been in contact with President Bush and Mayor Giuliani to ensure that the appropriate emergency response is as effective and well coordinated as possible. He says, as a precautionary measure, we have closed all non-emergency related state government offices in New York City.
Again, we do not know, Jim and Sandra, where Mayor Rudy Giuliani is. The so-called command center bunker was on the 23rd story of, and I don't know which tower it was. Was it
South Tower? And that's the place where they're supposed to go normally when there is a tragedy, a terrorist attack, something like that in the city. That's where, when there's a hurricane on the way, that's where
emergency management.
Exactly right. That's where all the related city agencies go to coordinate something like this. Of course, they can't go there now.
Right. Do we know? I wonder where the city is now coordinating emergency activities.
I don't. We should find that out. And but the Office of Emergency Management has offices about a block from City Hall, just across the street from City Hall. But I don't know. I think that's at 250 Broadway. I think. I'm not sure. But we'll find that out. It's a good point. Bill, we were talking earlier about the 747. We thought earlier that it was a 767 that went down
in Pennsylvania,
Somerset County Airport. We are not. We were reporting earlier that it was a 767. Later reports are that it is a 747, and we didn't know at the time and still don't whether it is related in any way to what we have seen in Washington and in New York City today. But we do know that we are being told that plane either came out of New York or Cleveland and was bound for Chicago. Again, these stories are unfolding slowly. We will get more information as it becomes available, but right now that 747 that crashed near the Somerset County Airport, we aren't sure whether it was on its way trying to land at the Somerset County Airport, which really isn't big enough to handle a 747. It is the largest plane in the air. The 747 is the largest plane in the air right now.
And this, of course, we were told, and this has been the case almost for 2 hours, all airports in the United States have been closed for takeoffs, and all planes in the air at the time were told to land at the nearest airport. And we're assuming, although we don't know for sure, that might have been what this plane was doing.
And we have no. Okay. We've got reporters all over Lower Manhattan at this point in time. Michelle Charlesworth has been on the West Side Highway with the towers behind her for much of the morning. She is live there now.
We have no way to communicate with you except you can hear us. We can't hear you. Our cell phones haven't worked for about an hour and a half. We are about 30 blocks from Ground Zero, beneath the World Trade Center. Behind me, what used to be the World Trade Center, the two towers now gone, and the smoke changing color every second. One of the people who was down below, Michael Walters, who was a photojournalist, a freelance journalist. You were down there with your camera. Tell me what you saw.
I mean, I went down there initially just to take some pictures of a burning building, and when I was down there, I mean, I was quite close. I was right at the marina at the base of the tower, and all of a sudden you heard people scream, and you saw that people were jumping out of the building. I mean, you knew it wasn't debris because their arms were flailing, and I mean, it's just incredible.
Stop taking pictures.
That's when I stopped taking pictures. I mean, actually I sat down and started to cry because I was just so... I mean, it's like I said, it's one thing to take pictures of a burning building, but it's another thing to go and take pictures of people jumping.
One of the things you told me before is how can two huge buildings come down and small pieces of paper come down absolutely unscathed? How does that happen?
I mean, this was after the first explosion. I was sort of right next to the panic, and I was... I'm sorry.
I think it's understandable.
I was... After the first building exploded and went to move out of the way, there was just walking through this debris. It was like all volcanic ash. Just everything was coated in it, and
you're covered.
I'm covered.
Yeah.
And just single pieces of paper. You're walking through. You're seeing briefcases. You're seeing shoes. You're seeing just. I mean, like I said, single pieces of paper with people's handwriting that a whole building explodes and they're left unscathed, just sitting there flapping. You know, I mean.
Michael, thank you so much for spending time with us and telling us what you saw. Another person who saw it is one of other reporters, Cheryl Fiandaca, who was down, literally, you were right next to these buildings when they came down.
Right, we were about 2 blocks away when the second explosion hit, and all we heard was just this small explosion, then you saw a roar of an explosion and all kinds of smoke billowing out, debris falling down, people running, the firefighters and police screaming at everyone to run as the debris was coming down and hitting people. It's just total chaos and incredibly frightening situation down there.
I saw the video that was actually taken right where you were, and people running out and actually coughing and unable to breathe at all.
Oh, it's unbelievable. There's between the smoke and whatever debris and everything else that's floating through the air, and there's also some concerns that there may be something in the air down there. So people are rolling up their windows. Firefighters have their masks on, and they're asking everybody to stay away. Although people are still trying to get down there to see what's going on.
No, I know.
It's a very, very scary situation down there.
No, the whole city's on lockdown. People have been asking us. They've been coming up to us saying, "Are the subways open?" No, they're on lockdown. The bridges and tunnels are closed. There's no way to get out of the city except for by foot. And you can see they're kicking up. It's kicking up a lot of this dust as all of the emergency vehicles come out of here. People have been asking you as well as I, is this chemical biological warfare? Do we know? We have no idea. It's just an acrid smell. Just
Right.
tells you what happened.
Right, we just have no idea at this point. There are a lot of injuries and a lot of problems down there. A lot of firefighters are injured, and we've seen tons of ambulances going by most of the morning as we've been here.